As you're navigating the admin portal, you're going to probably get confused with all the different terminology from requester to resource type to eligible to active to activate. So I thought it'd be nice for us to just take a few moments and talk about the terminology. So when you hear the word eligible, this is who, as in what user, is eligible to elevate rights to the desired admin role. Okay? When you hear the term active, that is a role assignment that doesn't require a user to perform any action to use the role. So that means a user that is assigned as active have privileges assigned to the role. I didn't mean to do a question mark there. Now, okay, when you hear activate, that is the process of making the request. So when a user wants to request to elevate their permissions, they're going to click on a button that says activate. And then assigned simply means a user that has an active role assignment. And I don't want to confuse you here, so let's break this up a little bit, make it a little easier to read. Do some space in between. Now, what assigned means, or sorry, what activated means is a user that has an eligible role assignment and they've performed the actions to activate the role. They submit the request and is now active. Once they're activated, the user can use the role for a pre-configured, and I didn't mean to do parentheses there, sorry, I want to do asterisks, pre-configured amount of time before they need to request access or activate again. So pretty important terminology here. Now, something I want to call out, when we talk about eligibility, there's another term here called permanent eligible. And if I could spell here, sorry. Permanent eligible. And that means a role assignment where a user is always eligible to activate the role. And then when you think about active, I want you to think about also permanent active. And that is a role assignment where a user can always use the role without performing any actions. So that's kind of interesting as well, where they don't have to go in there and activate every time they want to request access. So just keep that in mind. Now, you're probably wondering, what is a role? A role is an admin role in Microsoft 365, Azure, and even a SaaS app. And I'll talk more about SaaS apps later on. And then the other common terminology you'll hear me talk about is JIT, or just-in-time access. And JIT is where they receive temp permissions to perform a privilege task. Right? So you only get an hour to perform your task before it expires. And speaking about expiration, expire eligible is where the user is eligible to activate the role within a specified start and end date. Don't worry, I'll get more to design and how all this makes sense later on. We're just going to settle on the terminology for just a moment. And then expire active is where the user can use the role without performing any actions within a specified start, stop date, or start, end date, rather. So hopefully this is making sense. And then the other thing I want to talk about, just briefly, just make sure we're all on the same page, is the principle of least privilege access. And that's basically a recommended security practice in which every user is provided with only the minimum rights needed to accomplish a task. This allows you to minimize the number of global administrators and instead uses specific admin roles for certain scenarios. Pretty easy, right? So this is the terminology I want you to become familiar with when you're working with privilege identity management. It can get kind of confusing. So if you want, go back and pause and rewind the video and review some of this. But now that you know the terminology, now let's move on to some of the concepts and then how to design for PIM. So we'll see you in the next video.